Welcome to the D&D Fitness Radio Podcast, brought to you by your hosts, Don Saladino from New York City and Derek Hansen from Vancouver, Canada.
I saw this text. I don't understand how, spending for every segment, including fitness classes, I don't understand. 1 in every 2 people are going to, they're claiming by 2030 is going to be obese.
Fat, yep.
That seems like bullshit.
I don't know. I mean, I guess the most interesting place, and keep an eye on this, when you travel and you watch people in the airport, because it's a pretty good cross-section of society, but it's obviously people who can afford to fly.
Right.
I assume if you went to the bus station, it would be different. But anyways,
right.
I just watch people in the airport. I'm like, man, there's a lot of people that are heavy. So I don't know. Let me know after your trip and see if you notice it. But I think we're so used to being around people who are fit.
Yeah, I mean, listen, also in New York, everyone here walks. I mean, it's just, in my opinion, you just don't see as many obese people. Like, everyone at least looks like that they're doing something, or for the most part, not all. But yeah, I've gone to different regions of our country, and I've definitely raised an eyelid, and it's shocking. Disney, for God's sakes. I was just down at Disney. I couldn't believe how many people were.
Yeah.
The
happiest place on earth. Come on.
I know. It's shocking, but you sent me this. I want to read it. The United States leads the world in spending for every segment, including fitness classes, $37 billion. Sports and recreation, $58 billion. Apparel and footwear, $117 billion. Equipment and supplies, $37.5 billion. Mindful movements such as yoga, $10 billion. And related technologies, $8.1 billion. And for all the spending, we rank 143rd globally for actual participation in physical activity.
Yeah, that's not good.
Who's won?
I don't know. It's not. I don't think it's Canada. It's probably like a Scandinavian country, right?
Maybe like, I don't know, Africa.
Yeah, because they spend so much less on fitness equipment, but yeah.
What is it? Is it a mindset? With fitness, it really comes down to a mindset. With being in shape, it really comes down to a mindset. Like, I can't stand where I hear, we're like, oh, it's 80% diet, right? And I'm like, no, it's 100% mental. Like, it's a mindset. When someone's continuing to struggle and they can't stay on a plan, or someone's continuing to struggle and they can't stay on a diet, it's a mindset. They're looking for the answers in a routine.
It's totally psychological, yeah.
Totally psychological, but like, you know what? I can't stand hearing this. People are like, well, that worked for me. Like, what do you mean it worked for you? How did it work for you? Well, I lost 15 pounds. It worked for me. I'm like, did the 15 pounds stay off? They're like, no. I'm like, then it didn't work for you. It's not working. Like, it seems like in the moment it works for you, but in my opinion, it works for someone if they're able to make that change and keep the change.
Yeah,
that's what people aren't thinking about. That's why, like, oh, well, yeah, I'm going to go on a no-carb diet because it works for me. Well, I can explain why it works for you and why you can't keep it off. Or the ketogenic diet, oh, it worked for me. Well, okay, I'll explain to you why you feel like it worked for you and why in the long term it hasn't. You haven't been able to keep the weight off. So this is right now, looking at the money that we spend, adding that up, that's like 37 plus 58, so call 40 and 50 is 90 plus 100, so that's 200, 240, 250. This is like almost $300 billion. Holy shit.
Yeah, and I think it's just, again, part of that mindset is that, well, I spent the money on it, so I'm doing it, but are you actually doing it? Right? Is the treadmill, used to hold clothes, like as a coat hanger in your place? The dumbbells are used, or the kettlebells for door stops. I think or
is that a perfect example? You remember the old Bally's model, like when people used to joke around about Bally's or Jack LaLanne or any of these like old school gyms? People are like, oh, you know what? Like the best customers are one who doesn't use their gym membership. Like, is that that's just an example of this? Like, how many apps? Like, I would love to see how many apps are on the average American's phone that they're paying for something but not using it. Like, I have a couple apps, not fitness apps, but I have a couple apps that I'm signed up for that I know I'm being charged something for.
Yep.
Is there an app for that? Is there an app to be able to recognize what you're paying? Seriously, like someone should create. I'm sure they have. Like, how do I might have 100 apps on my phone.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Your phone, if you go into the settings, it'll say like you haven't used these apps for the past 3 months. Do you want to delete them? Sometimes you do that, but I think it's somewhere in your iPhone settings where it's
iTunes and App Store, passwords, mail, contacts. Isn't there an area that says app? Oh.
Yeah, but the app is a metaphor for fitness equipment or gym membership or, I'm paying for it. It's done. It's taken
Here's
care
one I used to use that I signed up for and I paid for. I don't know if I'm still getting charged. Duolingo. So I used to take Italian and I started doing it on the train and started like getting some of my Italian back, and I could still be getting charged for that. I have no idea.
Did you retain the Italian or did you lose it?
Well, I took it for 2 years.
Yeah.
When I went to Italy, I would say towards the end of the trip, I felt like I was almost fluent. I could go through the conversation. I was really 2 years of studying. 2 years of I was taking probably 1 to 2 classes a week. And I got good. And now I'm shit. But now, like, I heard some guy talking Italian the other day, and he's like, oh, he's talking about the library with something.
That's just like exercise. People are like, I lost the 15 pounds, but I haven't really done anything in the last year. So I gained it all back. It's like you're Italian.
You don't use it, you lose it?
Yeah.
You say it? I put a post up the other day. I thought of you because I wasn't even moving fast. I was more doing like a mid-intensity, like a medium-intensity run. I've been running a lot lately, by the way. I've been doing a lot of heart rate training. I've been using First Beat. I actually got the Oura Ring too, so I'm using that.
Okay. Have you recorded some of your hockey stuff? I'm curious.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying the First Beat. I have my I have it here. He's got to send me a new strap because the strap they sent me was kind of a dud. But I'm able now to go and I'm able to assess every night, like I play, what like my training volume. It's like volume plus intensity is called something called TRIMP. I keep forgetting what it stands for, but you're able to like basically determine how much work you've done from an aerobic plus anaerobic standpoint. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times, you and I talk about this. You always feel like people are like, oh, this is hit. Like I feel like I'm training my anaerobic system, and I'll turn around in hockey and I'm like, wait a second, my heart rate hit 168, but I was in my aerobic zone for the majority of the skate, and my anaerobic zone was much lower. High intensity was really low, much lower. Like I got to high intensity for like, maybe a total of like 20 seconds for the whole skate, where I was really pushing my max heart rate. And now what's getting interesting is I feel like we've been underworking. For years, no, seriously, but for years, everyone's like, oh, overtraining or doing too much. It's like, yeah, no, this system doesn't take into consideration the 500 pounds I was just deadlifting an hour and a half ago.
Yeah.
But man, like when I was getting on the ice in the beginning of the season, I was a little gassed.
Yeah.
I never said that in a day in my life. And then I sat back and I started using this system. And I started really assessing what my training's been like. I'm like, well, call it what you want. I really haven't been doing much energy systems work. Been playing hockey recently, and then it's so fun. But I haven't really been training been doing HIIT type of training. I've been doing more like medium state, more steady state. So no wonder when I get my heart rate into close to a max, I'm feeling gas. My recovery is phenomenal. I'll bounce back within 30 seconds to below 120. That's great. But the ability to get up there, man, it really was kind of breaking me up. So I started doing a bunch more anaerobic training using this system. I got on the ice last night, man. I was a machine. After working the system for 4 weeks and really committing to this, almost to the point where I'm more committed to this than my weight training right now.
Yeah.
Training a lot.
There was a parent who contacted me, and their kid was trying to, for a certain college, had to get a certain score in the yo-yo test. Do you know what that is? That's where you do like, it's like 20-meter shuttles. Like you go there and back, you wait for a bit, there and back, and it just gets faster.
Right.
Right. So it's basically the ability to repeat, accelerate. Right. And so I said, well, okay, she hasn't made it. If she doesn't make the standard, she might be off the team. What has she been doing? And they're like, well, she's been running on the treadmill and just doing 30-minute stationary bike stuff. And I'm like, well, that's not going to solve this problem. This is a acceleration or anaerobic sort of ability that she hasn't tapped into, right? You can't just go and do bike. It's a different modality. It's not intense enough. Right. So now we have her doing actual sprints and repeats and all that. So I think a lot of people confuse what actual high intensity is. And we talked about this before. So
100%. I'm looking at the reason why I'm not looking at you is I pulled up my report that I get sent to me after like each bout. And it's saying that, so I was on the ice last night and I felt, going into the skate, I felt like complete shit. I was beat up. Like I had meetings all day. I trained. By the time I got home, I was tired. I went to a church meeting. I left and then I had a work phone call, and then I had to roll into this game at night. And I got on the ice. I started warming up. I'm like, I feel good. And I got on the ice and I'm looking. It was my high intensity training for the night. It says I was in a high intensity zone for only 8 seconds. And my heart rate got up to 164, which for me is like, okay. Like I think my max heart rate is probably around 180. I mean, getting into the 170s is difficult. That's my goal right now. I want to start training with, just with more rest intervals, more like a 1 to 3 work to rest, where I could just kind of go and just for 45 seconds, just literally try and beat the living shit out of myself. But my anaerobic threshold zone, it said I was in there for 11 minutes and 33 seconds. So anaerobic threshold, you would consider that like pushing, right?
Yeah.
But you're not considering that like, that's not beating yourself up. You should be able to maintain anaerobic threshold for a decent amount, right?
Yeah, I think, again, a lot of this stuff is dependent on base fitness. So if somebody is, if like you give somebody who's out of shape what you would consider your aerobic workout, that could be very, very anaerobic threshold for them. Like they could just crap out really quickly because they're just not in shape enough. So I think that's where the confusion comes in, is
right.
Somebody's heart rate could jump up because they're just so out of shape, but then it stays up because they're not fit and they don't.
Right. No. I mean, if you look at the grid here, I mean, you're going to see a lot of kind of discrepancy on my, like, it was coming up for a period of time and it was recovering pretty quickly. But what's interesting is because you're on the ice for an hour and you're like, all right, I'm pushing. But there's the deceleration time. There's like, I like to call it hockey, is like flow time. Like, yeah. There's like, you're circling, you're trying to receive a pass and you're kind of, you're not going all out. Like you get the puck at times and you're going on these bursts, then you got to go all out. But it's even showing in my skate. This is interesting. Anaerobic threshold zone, 11 minutes, 33 seconds. Aerobic zone 2, 15 minutes, 50 seconds. Aerobic zone 1, I don't know the difference yet, is 10 minutes. But my recovery zone, I was in it when I was on the ice for 19 minutes. It's 24% of my skate. So 24% of my skate, I was recovering, and that was the combination of, obviously resting on the bench, right, and allowing my heart rate to come down. Actually, what's interesting is that I was only when I was on the bench. Otherwise, everything was green, which is I was in that anaerobic threshold and that aerobic zone a lot. Mm-hmm. It's just interesting. So by the end of a workout, you're able to figure out how much of a score did you get in the aerobic zone and the anaerobic zone. Heart rate, low, average, high. I think this is a pretty valuable tool for me, because everyone now is like, overdoing, and I'm like, well, maybe we're just not doing enough.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that you're looking at all these nuances of like, okay, am I in this zone? How long should I work? And then the other 50% of the country is fat, right? Like they just don't work out at all. So look at the disparity in what you're looking at, the fine details, versus some people just aren't moving. They're obviously eating shitty. And
I'd be happy if everyone just got into that recovery training zone.
yeah.
And that's why I'm like, a lot of the stuff I put out, including a post today, was I was like, guys, just it sounds so stupid, but just do something.
Do something. Yeah.
Stop, stop looking for like, oh, the magic. Just like, fine. You know, for years, like, oh, spinning good, and like a long time ago, I'm like, whoa, I prefer you not to sit. Like, listen, man, where's your body be in worse shape? Sitting on a bike biking, or sitting on the in a chair eating Cheetos? Like, just bike. I don't give a shit anymore. Like,
because sometimes you can shit on the wearables a lot, and you're like, well, you know. But then at least if you're quantifying steps, like obviously it signifies movement, and heart rate, which can show intensity. I mean, that's pretty simple. Most people should be able to do that. You know, it's crazy how, you know, you said all this money is being spent on equipment, shoes, classes, yoga, and with very little impact. So do they need to spend that money, or do they just need to fix their brain and their mindset, like you said?
I think so. I have a nutritionist working with a new client, and we were discussing, you know, not one of my clients, well, yeah, technically it is one of my clients, but someone who's a member of my club. We were talking about why this person, you know, might have struggled. And our nutritionist said something incredibly intelligent. She's like, you know what, I'm going to just, for the first few weeks, obviously give this person valuable information, but I'm really kind of in this assessment phase. I really have to figure out how this person and why they tick this way. And it's the same reason why, like, I won't work with people remotely anymore. Like, I have one remote client that I happen to like. The guy's in Singapore, but like everyone else, like, it's either fizzled or I've parted ways with, or it's just like, at a certain point, man, you just got to get this. Like, you don't need, like, if you need me to write a program for you, fine. It's not really what I want to be doing, but, you know, it's either going to work or not going to work. Like, I could find out in the first 2 to 4 weeks whether, to be honest with you, I could find out in the first couple of sessions, but I think really within 2 to 4 weeks, because sometimes you have that success story where you could take someone and you resurrect them. You are able, as a good coach, you are able to take an individual who's been unsuccessful and make them successful, and then it sticks. But, you know, after a few weeks of the excuses, of the back and forth, you know, there's people who want it and there's people who don't want it.
Yeah. Do you know of any cases where you've dealt with somebody, or somebody else has dealt with somebody who's trying to lose weight and has chronic weight gain and, you know, obesity issues? Have they actually tapped into a psychiatrist, psychologist to look at, you know, their mental makeup around it, as opposed to just diet and exercise? Like, is that part of the process?
Weight loss, actually, with weight gain. I had a woman who was anorexic, and she, we had to take her to a functional medicine doctor. We had to take her to a therapist. And I mean, this woman would lie about eating, wouldn't eat, would want to train with me for hours a day, which I wouldn't do. Then, you know, part of our training, it was very odd. I mean, part of our training was just more meditation and more of like trying to bring lunch in and eat lunch with her. And I'm putting all this time into this person. And I was young, but I realized, like, listen, that's not my expertise. This goes beyond. Not everything can get fixed with a workout program and a sound nutrition plan. It's like, and that's when, you know, things become much deeper. I mean, what about you? I mean, people don't really come to you for weight loss, though, right?
No, not really. Like, I had this one guy, I got to talk to this guy, and he wants weight gain. Like, he's going to push a bobsled, and I think he's like 190 pounds, and you got to be about 210. And so, because you have to have the weight in the sled to make it go down faster, right? And so he's like, well, how do I put on weight without compromising my speed and all that? So more of those types of situations. But no, I mean, from a weight loss point of view, again, it's the simple things like, oh, okay, are you moving? How many calories are you burning? What are you eating? Are you sleeping well? But it was interesting because I remember watching Dr. Phil, and he was talking to people about obesity and weight gain and approaching it from a psychological point of view. And I'm just wondering how many people actually do that, or are there experts in the field, the mental health field, that deal with that?
I have actually. There was a friend of mine, Dr. Lynn Saladino, Well, actually, I was on the phone with her a little bit earlier, but that's one of her specialties. It's more of like, the mental aspect in the fitness and nutrition. And she's a therapist, but she does also cover these areas that we're talking about. We've had her on, haven't we?
Yeah.
We've had her on.
So she's been pretty successful at that.
Yeah,
like in terms of
she has. It seems like her business is growing. She's got a great temperament. She really cares too. Like she's just, and like, give me a call. Let's talk about it. Not looking for anything in return. Like, who really loves it and who doesn't, who's in it for the right reasons or not. But, getting back, Jesus, we veer off topic. But we didn't, because you sent me this report showing that probably $250 to $300 billion is being spent on all these health and fitness, aids or apparel or something that's supposed to contribute to your well-being. Yet we're 147?
Something, yeah. You're just the amount being spent versus the benefit is just way out of proportion, like stupidly out of proportion. So
I like this. I do like this gamification component for people. And what I have noticed is even when selling my own programs, if you're selling a program or you're hosting a contest, the contest 10 out of 10 times does better. If there's a way where people can build a community and they can kind of have this level of accountability and a goal in mind, it's way easier. It's way better than being like, here's this PDF, download it, do what I'm telling you to do for 6 weeks. And, some woman, I wrote a program for a friend recently, and I'm like, try this for 4 weeks. Let's see how it goes, because it was completely different. And she was trying to get pregnant, and she's really, I think she was kind of overworking and under eating a little bit. So we made some changes. I'm like, how you feel? She's like, I feel great. I'm like, awesome. I'm like, you feel like you're getting stronger? Your energy feel better? She's like, yes. I'm like, are you bored of the program? She's like, no, actually, I kind of want to keep doing it. I'm like, then keep doing it. Let's go another 4 weeks. Like, there's no 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 12. I always say, you change your program up when, you feel like it's not working or you lose motivation to do that program. And that could be because, you're not getting stronger or you're just bored of it or whatever. Then like change the fucking program.
Yeah.
Like, just make it fun. Like, training's got to be fun. But big eye opener for me on the cardiovascular training lately, with my hockey, and just starting to now implement. All right, man. Like, this isn't about me going and like beating myself up for 30 straight minutes. This is me being strategic and trying to get my body to move faster. My body feels a lot better. Everyone always talks about running like, oh, it's so bad for you, and I'm like, bullshit. Like, my hip feels great. When I wasn't running, it wasn't feeling great. Now my hip feels great. My back feels great. When I was running, it didn't feel great. Or when I wasn't running, it didn't feel great. And, it just shows that when you start reestablishing, we use that word elasticity, you and I talked about last time, like your body, like that's some of the best flexibility training you can add for your body, correct?
Yeah, and I think there's enough studies out there that show that people who are inactive will still have like, osteoporotic conditions. They might need hip replacements. Their joints might, deteriorate because they're not doing anything. And then they still get inflammation. They're probably not eating properly, all these things. So, obviously if you run excessively, there was a great graphic. I got to send it to you, Don, but it basically showed that recreational runners actually had better health outcomes than competitive, because when you're a competitive runner, you're pushing almost to that limit all the time. But being somewhere in the middle, as opposed to not doing anything, like just running recreationally when you feel like you need to, and was way better for health outcomes. So I think that's where people have trouble. It's like the extremes, like they don't do anything, or let's kill it. Let's go do whatever exercise, group fitness, kill it 3 times a week, and then don't do anything. You're probably going to have more joint problems than if you're doing something every day. So yeah, it's crazy. Like even I'm listening to all these debates about healthcare. Like I'm Canadian, right? And I'm watching the Democratic debates, and everybody's saying, well, we should have this type of healthcare and that type of healthcare. And but you're spending, again, in healthcare, you guys are spending so much money, but still not having great outcomes. So it's not just about spending money. It's about, what about prevention? 50% of the people are going to be obese. Well, there's a whole symptom that comes with that in terms of healthcare and healthcare expenditures and whatever, all these degenerative diseases and all that. So I just find it so interesting that if everybody just focused on, like if everybody just followed you and did what you said, probably have less healthcare issues. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, well, us follow.
Well, I'm just saying.
What do you think's overstaying your welcome? So I get this question asked a lot. They're like, well, how much running is too much running? And obviously that's an individualistic answer, but do you feel like there's a specific amount of mileage that the body can handle where it's like, all right, you know, and some people are freaks. Like I work with this Navy SEAL, and he, in his phase of training, he wanted to start implementing a little bit more strength work because he does so much endurance work. So I put him on a program. We started implementing strength work, and like 3/4 of the way through the program, like he's away for a weekend, and he comes in the following week, and he's like, oh, I did an ultra on Sunday. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? He's like, I ran an ultra. For those of you who don't know an ultra, it's 100 miles. Like, what do you mean you did an ultra? You haven't been running. Like, you haven't ran, let alone trained for an ultra. He's like, oh, I've been running a little bit, you know. I'm like, you haven't been training for an ultra. He's like, yeah, no, I just ran it. I'm like, what did you run it? And he told me the time, and I was like, what? And then I forgot what his time was. It's 100 miles. And then this is 2 or 3 days later. So he might have ran on a Sunday. I think I'm with him like on a Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm not exaggerating. Like, how should I feel? And this was his answer. Fine. Like, fine. Yeah. An ultra? 100 miles? Like, I would feel that. Like, I'm sorry. Like, especially if I didn't train. I'm not saying I could. Do I believe I can run 100 miles? Yes, I believe if I trained, I could definitely run 100 miles. 100% I could do it. I think it's all up in, I think it's in here, but I think that it also takes a point where your body has to develop those reps, and you know, crap's going to happen. Chafing, joints can start breaking down. But for this guy to turn around and do an ultra and not train for it, all right, what's too much or what's too little?
What's his personality like? Is he kind of an obsessive compulsive, or does he get addictive? No.
So he was. I can't tell you what SEAL team he's in, but he was in one of the SEAL teams. He's one of the more. I think from a lot of the SEALs that I've worked with, they all know who he is. Very smart. He's in tech now.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it takes
very bright, very, very intelligent.
I assume it takes a certain type of mindset to be in the Navy SEALs anyways. So maybe that fits the same profile but even, I mean, do you like when people come in, clients come in, are you I mean, you're probably doing this, but you're sort of classifying them by personality and, you know, maybe what kind of work they like to do and what will work for them and what, you know what I mean? Do you do that ever where you're like, oh, okay.
I don't know if it's classifying them, but like within a session, I'm like, all right, like I know what I'm dealing with. Like I'm not mentioning names, but I just got a new Hollywood person the other day, and this individual came in, had a baby within the last year, and you know, there's always that very friendly, run the person through an FMS. No huge red flags, no reason to call Charlie. Very basic stuff. Starting with a workout, I told her the workout today is going to be on a scale of 1 to 10. It's probably going to be about a 6. The workout ended up being an 8 because she just, you know, I'm like, all right, we got a live one here. Like, she wanted to go. And I'm like, all right. And she can handle it, and her body was fine. And, you know, I made sure that the things I was having her do wasn't anything that, you know, it's not like we were Olympic lifting, you know, for reps. Like we were able to push a sled, but she pushed it a little bit harder than I planned on her pushing it today. Just how it panned out. And that's when you kind of, you assess and say to yourself, okay, we've got someone who likes to get it in. But from a category, it's not like, you know, category A, category B, category C. I don't know about you. I mean, but you're working with a lot more athletes than I'm working with. Everyone coming to you is an athlete. Everyone coming to you has it. Well, do you do that with personality? Or do you sit down with someone and you're like, all right, this is going to be a dream to work with because I know if I tell this person to jump off that bridge, they're going to do it. Or another person, it's like, all right, this is going to be like pulling teeth. All right, I told you to do this for your warm-up and you didn't do it. All right, you're making my job more difficult. Do you go through that, or do they just kind of eat out of your hand?
I think it's like you kind of know once you start working with them what category they fall into. Is like, okay, do I need to encourage them more? Are they going to be a discipline issue or a consistency issue? Or are they just going to do what I say and then do more? So I'm always trying to navigate those parameters and go, okay, just have to be careful on my delivery and how much I have to monitor them. But yeah, you pretty much know. There's always the professional athlete who is very talented, who doesn't really work that hard or like to work that hard because they've never had to. And so you have to manage that versus the guy who's sort of the up and comer and may not be as talented, but has worked really hard. So, I mean, it's a little different, but yeah. I mean, where I've noticed the personality thing more has been when I've worked in rehab settings, like a physical therapy clinic, and people come in and I have chronic back pain and, I hate my job and my kids hate me and my wife hates, and so there's, that psychological component that enters into chronic pain and inactivity and poor diet. Like I see that more.
Yeah. They're really intertwined.
Oh, so much.
Like emotional, like it's really intertwined. I mean, I have someone I'm really friendly with. Every time I talk to him, it's like, I hate my job. I hate what I'm doing. I'm like, dude, just leave, man. Like you've got to know, like everything, it's always a problem. There's always a complaint. And I feel bad for the person. It really sucks.
Yeah.
To live your life like that. But I don't know. It starts getting to a point where you're just like, screw this. Like
yeah, like,
what? Could you imagine me being on you every week being like, this sucks, Derek.
This podcast is horrible. Why are we doing it?
Our podcast is amazing. Most underrated. It's the most underrated podcast on all podcasts.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. But have you been watching this stuff on the coronavirus? Like I saw like Joe Rogan did a piece on it. He's like, oh, this scares the hell out of me. And everybody's freaking out about it. I think there's been about 1,300 people in China that have passed from it, which is not great. But then when I look at these disease numbers related to obesity and healthcare and all that, you're like, wow, which is the real epidemic here? But which one's going to get more headlines? It's going to be the coronavirus, right? People wearing masks. But maybe they should just wear masks so they don't eat so much. I don't know. We should design a mask so they can't eat.
Terrible. You said that, I would say that. You said that, I would say that. Well, the other day, in my kids' school system, not in the district. So there's two different schools in our district. But in the other school, like a news came across all of our emails, and it's saying how a family just flew back from China and they might be compromised and the kids are in school, and like my town went into an uproar. And then they pull the kids out of school and until they, are tested and figure out that they're okay. But I mean, the school system pissed me off because like they didn't want to take any responsibility. They're just like, oh, well, this is a terrible thing for this family to have to pull their children out of school. Like, your kids were out of school in China for 2 weeks. Are you serious? Like, are you making this about the family? Like, one, what were they doing over there? Two, like, I thought these airports were on, like, I thought China was on lockdown. I thought no one's able to fly in and out of our country.
Or right? If they flew back here, they'd be quarantined, right?
Right, I think so. But what the hell are they doing flying back here then? Did they, like, fly from China to London and, like, spend a couple of days? And then, like, that makes no sense to me. None of it makes any sense. Oh, bullshit. Really? No, it is. This is crazy.
Yeah.
This is nuts. I mean, how many people died in the U.S. so far from it? Was it 12?
Yeah, way more people from the flu. More people slipping in the shower. Yeah.
It's terrible. Something's going on. Like this flu, people, a couple of my friends have just gotten absolutely blistered. The weather here is weird now. It's not cold as much. It's like people are getting, it's just weird. People are getting sick. Knock on wood, I feel good, but one of my friends flew on an airplane with one of those masks the other day.
Yeah.
And he's like, it was a game changer.
Oh, how about the subway, the train? Like, are people wearing anything or?
Once in a while you see it. This morning I got stuck on the subway. I was coming from, what was that?
We should put our heads together and come up with a mask. Okay, it's a combination mask. One is, obviously it filters pollution and other nasty shit. But also you can like flip a switch and then it becomes like an altitude mask that you wear. And then you have a little feeding hole where like you can increase the size of the feeding hole so you can only eat little things like nuts or Anyways.
Yeah, and almost like it filters it. The second you realize you've had enough, it's like it closes.
Yeah, it closes. Yeah. Your
About
calorie
2 hours,
count.
so you can open that up again.
Ingenious.
2 hours. That would work, by the way.
It's the lifestyle mask. Yeah.
People just eat too fast. I eat too fast, but the stuff I'm eating I don't like anyway. So, that's not completely true. But
all right. I mean, you're in New York City. Do the food delivery business, is it like just taken off? Everybody's having food just delivered to them. Is that a problem? I mean,
these Uber Eats and stuff.
Uber Eats, and yeah, we got like Skip the Dishes, and yeah.
I don't know what it is. I know we are sitting way too much, and I know. I mean, with video games nowadays and with your phone, I mean, I gotta feel like activity level is decreasing.
Well, it's tough. Like me and my wife went out for a run last night, dark, kind of wet, not too cold, but certainly cold enough. And just the mental struggle to get out and, okay, we're going to put on our running shoes. We're going to do this. Like, obviously doing it together makes it a lot easier if you've got a partner, but doing it and then once we started doing it, looking at my heart rate like you, and okay, it's getting up there. Oh my God, this is, and then once you do it, you're like, oh, this is great. It goes from this, like, I hate this to it's great within a span of like, I don't know, a couple of minutes. So I think if people could just get themselves to do it, make that initial step. I don't know. What do you think? That's the toughest part.
Yeah, I don't know anymore. No, I really don't. I mean, for some reason, there's this psychological component where people they either get it or they don't get it, or something clicks on them at a certain time. And you can't, it's like in business. You can't, I don't believe you can be successful. I think it's very difficult to be successful at something if you hate doing it. Now, I know people who are who make money and they hate their job or they hate their boss. I'm not really talking about that, but
yeah,
something like this, you hear stories of Elon Musk, not taking a salary and, everything's in stock. And, there was an article on him recently where they said he was sleeping in his office. You're Elon Musk. You're going to be worth, hundreds of billions of dollars.
What does he do for exercise? Do you know?
I have no idea.
We should figure it out. Let's send him a message.
I have no idea, but this is a guy that obviously probably doesn't have to worry about money.
Yeah.
But he's so passionate. I wouldn't even say about making products. It's about changing the world. He's changing the world.
Yeah.
This guy is what's that?
He's going to go to Mars, isn't he? He doesn't want to fly to Mars, die there. Yeah.
He will.
Yeah.
Were you doubting him?
Get him an exercise program done. Tweet at him, something.
Whatever the hell he wants. And what happens? What happens? He says, what happens if he doesn't exercise and he's not obese and looks fine and his bloods are healthy and he's active and he lives to 95?
Yeah.
Did he do it wrong?
I don't know.
I just don't like. I don't like when people who use other individuals as examples, and well, that works for him. I went on a little bit of a rant with Zach Ziegler from Muscle and Fitness the other day about Mark Wahlberg and about how the Huffington Post kind of glorified. My opinion, they were glorifying his 2:30 a.m. wake up every morning.
That's nuts.
Come on, man! You wake up at 2:30 a.m. and you pray for 15 minutes. And then you work out. And then you get on the golf course by a certain time. So you're off and home by and everything. Your whole morning between praying and eating and working out and playing golf, you're at your house by 8:30 in the morning. It's impressive.
That's a mental health crisis. Come on.
Yeah, but what are we doing? So now is when we're in a society where people my goal with sleep is to continue to sleep more. I'm trying to sleep more.
Yeah.
I feel better when I get more sleep.
Do you remember your dreams? Do you dream a lot?
I do. I dream. Yeah, I've been dreaming a little bit lately.
Yeah.
Remember, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't.
Okay. Yeah, because my wife doesn't remember anything, and then I, remember a lot of weird stuff, but yeah. I
dream a lot about, going back to, play college baseball again.
Yeah, I have those. I have the old sports, go back and revisit that. I have also a lot of test anxiety, I think, where I'll like go back to college or school and I'm like, where's my test? I don't know which room my test is in, right? And I'm like running around campus looking for my room. But other than that, yeah.
That's pretty funny. I used to have a weird one. It was very common where like I'd be like on the on deck circle or at bat and I'd look down and I wouldn't have my cleats on. Or like I'd be like, they'd call my bat and like my batting gloves would be all tangled up and I couldn't get them on my hands. I remember having a conversation with my brother about that because my brother is a very competitive golfer. And I said, what was yours? And he like immediately was like, oh yeah, I'd be trying to hit a shot in a phone booth.
Oh, wow.
He'd be standing in a phone booth and he'd have to hit the ball like his next shot. He had a 200-yard shot or whatever it was. And he's like, obviously could take like a chip swing. And it's like that, like just trying to figure out how to hit out the phone booth. So it's funny. It's obviously anxiety.
Yeah. I was going to say, yeah. Now, I hate to go off on a tangent here, but what the hell's going on with baseball, Don?
What do you mean?
Well, the whole Houston Astros sign stealing and all these.
Oh, I thought that was old news already. Are they still
No, they're still talking about it, and they're still
terrible.
You know, and then
It's
Pete
terrible.
Rose, like everybody's like, well, we should reinduct.
No, it's terrible. Like, come on, man. This is like you. It says something about your personality when you cheat. I mean, people are thinking of that as, well, it's no cheating. It's part of the game. No, it's cheating. You're like installing cameras.
Is it happening more often than they know? Like they caught like that?
I have no idea. I mean, how would I know? I mean, I have no clue. I mean, it's kind of funny that it was.
You're my baseball insider. Come on.
Yeah, but it's kind of funny how it's the Red Sox and the Astros. I mean, the Red Sox who New Yorkers hate, and the Astros who New Yorkers hate. It's like
New Yorkers hate everybody. Come on.
But there was such a level of like arrogance that like the Astros were walking around with.
Yeah.
All right. Well, how about that? It's funny too, looking at Jose Altuve. I remember when he hit that home run off of Chapman. And Chapman throws hard. He's a lefty, throws the ball, 103, 104 miles an hour. Supposedly holds the major league record for the fastest pitch. It wasn't a fastball they threw, but it was like a 98 mile an hour slider or something like that, like up high. And Altuve, who's 5'6", soaking wet, goes to he hit to almost dead center. It might have been left center, but oh my God. Do you know how hard that is to do, by the way? Like hitting a baseball with a wooden bat. Like Altuve's 5'6". Like he swung at that pitch like he knew it was coming. That I will admit. He swung at it like he knew it was coming.
See, the New York Times just run an article here saying the Houston Astros comment on their cheating scandal. We're sorry. So that was published today.
Where's the article? Can you put the article up? I see you reading it.
Yeah, let's see here. I'm just gonna share
it to our. Here we got.
All right, so there it is.
The Houston Astros comment. We're sorry. Oh wow! So we're scrolling down.
Yeah. So this is.
The Astros held a new conference Thursday morning at their spring training home in West Palm. The owner Jim Crane, the new manager Dusty Baker, and players Altuve, Bregman were decided with questions about the scandal. Our opinion is that it didn't impact the game. But that's what I'm talking about. Take some ownership. We cheated, but it didn't impact the game.
We had a good team. We won the World Series. We'll leave it at there.
You know what that reminds me of? Like, did you rob the bank? Yeah, I did. I went to a Chase Bank. I robbed the Chase Bank. And you know what? And I didn't really. I'm just using it. I robbed the bank, and I only took $1 million. But the bank's worth, $500 billion. So I don't think it really impacted. It's, it doesn't. You still stole. No, yeah. I don't think they should be held accountable. I'm here to correct it and take this team forward with Dusty Baker, James Click, the Astros, the new general manager, Jim Crane, owner.
Yeah.
You think you should be held accountable? Take some ownership over that. What's wrong with being hold? Wait, hold on. We were wrong for everything we did in 2017. It's not what we stand for. It's not what we want to portray as an organization. And we were definitely wrong with all that, and we feel really sorry. We affected careers. We affected the game in some way, and looking back at it, it was just bad. Wait. You know what? all right, I respect Correa for saying that. Like, that's, what does Bregman say? On whether he was embarrassed, yes, I've learned from this, and I hope to regain their trust. This team is going to work extremely hard to do that on and off the field. Okay, great.
Yeah.
I believe in second chances. People make mistakes all the time. All the time. You own the mistake. But the owner right now is saying, I don't think I should be held accountable. Like, what he should have said was, yeah, hold me accountable. I didn't know about this, but this is my organization, and I do feel like I should be held accountable. Did I know about it? No, I didn't know about it. Which he did. Be clear about that.
Yeah, that's crazy, eh? Yeah, no, everybody's putting in their apology, and but they don't want the outcome changed. And
do you think they should be stripped of their World Series?
I
do.
I think so. This seems pretty egregious. Like, it does change the outcome of the game. Like, if they found out that the Kansas City Chiefs, Andy Reid was getting a direct feed of what San Francisco's defense was going to do, and what and they won. I mean, that's cheating, right? Like, they shouldn't win, right? So, yeah.
What do they get stripped of? I think they get stripped of their ALD. I think they get stripped through the playoffs. It's like they were cheating midseason. They would have been probably banned to play in the playoffs. If they were caught, there probably would have been some type of suspension or something. They get stripped of their, which sucks because now you stripped them of their ALCS, their ALDS, their American League Division Series, and then their ALCS, and then the World Series, and then whoever they were playing gets the World Series. But then what happens to the people they were playing,
Yeah, on the lead up to that.
Yeah, and then they didn't play in it. Like, it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Maybe what you do is you just strip them the World Series.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what they did to remember USC with Reggie Bush, and they stripped their college football championship. They said, "Oh, we take it away." And I think they stripped it, but they didn't necessarily award it to the other team that lost. So it creates all sorts of
it's bullshit
problems.
It's bullshit.
I mean, I guess my question to you is, how come they couldn't detect this? What sort of safeguards are in place to prevent that?
Well, someone had to have known. I mean, how do you, like, after a month or so after, how does this pop up? I mean, this had to be under some sort of investigation by someone. There's obviously someone who, like, how did this all come to fruition?
Yeah, and is it happening with other teams? Is this something like this unspoken, steroids in baseball thing that's happening where everybody's kind of doing it, but you just got caught?
I mean, I would assume that a lot of I'm curious what percentage of these players are still taking crap. And I'm actually a bad person to ask. Everyone thinks I'm like the best person to ask. Oh my God, I'm a coach and I'm in a gym and I work out and, like, I'm all into this stuff. I know zero about performance enhancing substances.
Yeah,
I just don't know. I know individuals that look like complete shit that take it, and I know people who are on covers of magazines that never have. And there's a way of telling, there's a way of knowing, but you just don't know. I mean, when someone's taking these performance-enhancing substances or steroids, or call it what you want, they just start processing things. I have a friend of mine recently who was a competitor, Olympic competitor, and he got off of it. And I said, "How do you feel?" He's very open about it, by the way. He's like, "How do I feel?" He's like, "Imagine driving around a 600 horsepower car all day, and then out of nowhere you just get into a 200 horsepower car." He's like, "I feel like shit." He's like, "I'm realizing now how much more difficult dieting is. That for me to look a certain way, I have to eat a lot more strict." And, like, a little bit, not saying he didn't, like, he knows nutrition and he knows how to get it, but yeah, there's less room for error. Like, you can't, like, you'll start looking at, like, oh, well, consuming white rice and brown rice, like, what do I hold less water with? Like, those are really tricky questions that people aren't necessarily thinking about. Most people aren't trying to get that lean to the point where, like, that's going to really matter. But when you're on the performance-enhancing drugs, your body can kind of rip through certain things, and you can allow yourself room for error.
Yeah.
That's where it gets difficult. You start asking opinions of people who've never really done it naturally. And I'm like, well, how do you know? How do you take that into consideration? Like, I understand, like, you could design a program. I understand you're really smart, but you're not really thinking about things the way that someone who might be natural would be thinking about something.
Like hitting a baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I was a good hitter in college, man. I was not a home run hitter. Like, I ran into a couple pitches and hit them when I thought was a long way. And, in college I was 6'1", 215 pounds. I was strong. Did I hit a 400-foot home run in college? Absolutely. Absolutely. You see Alex Bregman at 5'6" take a ball deep to center off of a guy throwing 100 miles an hour. Like, that to me that's hard to believe. And I'm not trying to devalue him. He's one of the best hitters in baseball. Please, by no means, I'm not trying to devalue or say what he is doing is cheating. He's a tremendous hitter. Barry Bonds took steroids. Call it what you want. The guy had to put a round bat on a round ball. Coming in at you at 60 feet, 6 inches at 100 miles an hour. Jose Canseco passed a comment about that. He said, steroids are not going to make you a great baseball player, but what they're going to give you is confidence. And when Canseco took that, he said what it gave him was strength and a level of confidence that he thought he can literally crush the world in the palm of his hand. That's probably one of the best gifts to give to an athlete who has that type of capability.
But those guys like and Roger Clemens, they're not making it into the Hall of Fame, right? What do you think? Yeah. I
don't think so. I don't think they're going to. I think it's a whole mess. I really, I just think that I think that, the commissioner of baseball at the time, I think they just turned over a lot of rocks, and I don't think everyone really fully understood did it set an example? Yeah, it set an example. What did it really do to the game? It made everyone look at the game as if, in that span of 1990 to whatever the year was, to 2000 and whatever, there were a lot of cheaters, and numbers and batting averages went up and home runs went up. And you go to the back of these players, go to Baseball Reference one day and start punching in the names of the players that really started performing well. You'll see guys like Brady Anderson for the Baltimore Orioles, who was always in good shape, but was built like an athletic soccer player. And, he's hitting 19 home runs, 20 home runs, and then a year later he's coming back, gaining X amount of weight, hitting 50 home runs. It was just it's so bizarre. You're just well, wait a second. Oh, wow. Look at this block of a 3 to 5 year period of time where this guy's average went up 30 points and he had 20 extra RBIs and 15 extra home runs. It's holy crap. The only guy that I can't say even took anything was but performed at that level was Ken Griffey Jr.
I was going to say.
He's the only guy that people ask me, who's the greatest hitter that you've seen in the last 30 years? I'm like, greatest ball player you've seen in the last 30 years? I'm like, Ken Griffey Jr. What about Mike Trout? Ken Griffey Jr. Ken Griffey Jr. was also plagued by injuries.
Yeah.
Probably lost 2 to 2.5 years of his career to injury, missing at bats. He had 660 home runs.
Yeah.
If he didn't get injured 2.5 years at the time he got injured, the guy's hit 800 home runs.
So the home run leader last year was they had 53.
Yeah, that was
is 50 the cutoff? Is it if people are hitting way over 50, then we kind of know what's going on?
Hitting 50 home runs is in my opinion, it's like running what's it in sprinting on the
sub 10 second 100 meter.
100 meter. Yeah. There's probably a handful of people in the world that can do that, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's the same thing in baseball. I mean, you're not even right now. There's probably 5 hitters in the game that 5 to 10 hitters in the game that could get 50 home runs in a season. A true world. And you're looking at guys like Aaron Judge or Mike Trout or Pete Alonso, who hit the 53. These guys are proven to be able to light it up, and they can contribute that type of power. But I don't know. Griffey. Trout. Right now, Trout's the best player in baseball. Could I honestly look you in the eye right now and tell you I know for a fact he's not on anything? The answer is no. I don't know that. But can I look you in the eye and be like, Ken Griffey Jr. didn't take anything? Yeah. And if I get that wrong, then that was a total. He did not. There's no way he took anything.
Yeah.
His physique didn't really change. His swing stayed the same. He came out of the gate in his career doing what he was doing in mid-career. Like, yeah, No, he wasn't. It wasn't a surprise. It wasn't like Brady Anderson who came out. Like, I'm at his last game in the early 90s. The first year Baltimore opened Camden Yards. I'm at their last game of the season. I saw him hit number 19, number 20.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like a big deal. And then he hits 50 like a few years later. And then you're like, all right, holy shit. I got to look that up. Seriously. Well, what about Ben Johnson?
I don't know. I mean,
are you allowed to?
No, I just think it's one of those things. Like, we could get into all these discussions over baseball and pro sports and Olympic 100 meters, and there's so much information that we don't know. And should we just stand by the performances as indicators that people are doping? Like, a guy runs a sub 2-hour marathon. Everybody's focusing on the shoes. Is it the shoes? Like, holy shit, the guy ran 48. How many? It was 444 or something, 100 meters in 17 seconds. Like, that's crazy. So I don't know. I have no, I'm like you, I have no beat on this. I don't know what anybody's doing. I mean, the world records are still being broken. So who knows?
I'm on Brady Anderson right now because this was the biggest discrepancy I've ever seen in hitting. In 92, which is the year I was telling you about where I was at that last game of the season, he had 21 home runs. I'm sorry, it was 21. Okay? 93 was 13. 94 was 12. 95 was 16 home runs.
Okay.
16 home runs in 95.
Okay. What did it
jump
jump
up? Comes back in 96. 16 home runs with 64 RBIs. In 96, he hits 50 home runs.
He got a new hitting coach.
He started taking creatine.
New batting gloves. I don't
And
know.
110 RBIs. What did he bat? He hit almost 300. 297. He couldn't hit 300 with those numbers. What was he in the MVP voting? 9. That year, who was it? I love looking at this. Yeah, Juan Gonzalez won the MVP that year. Then Alex Rodriguez, then Albert Bell, then Griffey. With a 303 batting average. Gonzalez was another one. He's another juice monkey. 47 home runs. Albert Bell, 48 home runs. Come on, man. You know what?
Now, here, let's circle back.
Yeah.
So you got all these guys doing these superhuman, amazing things, and the general public has no idea why or how.
So
I mean, does it circle back to them and their personal fitness and just go, I just can't be fit. Like, there's no way. These guys are superhuman, and I should just.
One thing I don't want to take away from these guys is, like, you take any human being and you put him on, take the strongest man on the planet. You put him in Brady's position, he's not hitting 50 home runs. It's still like, it's amazing what these athletes do.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if you're fighting for a position, I've never taken a performance-enhancing drug. Look at the camera right now. Never in my life. If I'm in the major leagues and I'm 3 years in and I'm like grinding for a position, everyone around me is taking it. I don't know what the answer is. Like, and a coach, and I don't know anything. Andy Pettitte, when Andy Pettitte took it and he gave his apology, you look at the guy in the eye and you're like, you know what? I doubt he knew what the hell he was doing. He was just so honest about everything, and people forgot. Like, it wasn't like Alex is a cheater, like, because he kept lying. But, Andy, like, people forgot that Andy got caught. Still one of the great Yankee pitchers. But, like, I think that, there are times when you have strength coaches, you have organizations, and they're like, listen, everyone's taking this, take this. Like, you got some kid from Guatemala who's, like, trying to make it. Like, yeah, he's going to pop it. It's his opportunity to sign a $100 million deal. Like, sure, why not? Playing the show for a few years, why not? When everyone around you is doing it, like, what, you're going to have some moral attack? Some, like, some level of, like, pride where you're like, oh, I'm not going to take it. Like, no, you're going to do, like, these guys do what they have to do to compete. What about sprinting?
I was thinking about the college entry scandal, where I think people are doing that, like, everybody's doing it. Everybody's getting somebody else to run their SAT.
That's just flat out. That's just flat out stupid. That's flat out cheating. I want to continue this. I mean, this is an interesting topic. I like it.
But the whole cheating thing, like what I wanted to circle back with, we talked about obesity. We talked about people spending money on stuff for exercise and it's not working. So are people in some way, are they finding out that these shortcuts don't work, just paying a gym membership and not showing up? And, are people not disciplined? Is it okay to be hungry? Like, do you ever walk around hungry and going, "Oh, I got to feed myself"? Or sometimes I just walk around and go, "Shit, whatever."
Yeah,
I'm hungry.
Yeah, I'm hungry. I think people want it, and I think when you have all these marketing tactics out there, and they're trying to sell this dream, they're trying to sell this this dream of like where you can be. I think people will, they're always going to dream and they're always going to want, and I think they're always going to be, yeah, I'm going to give it a shot. Why not?
But they're not selling, this is going to be a grind. This has got to be every day. You've got to focus and you got to work.
That's the thing. I don't think it needs to be a grind. Like, I think someone could just do 10 minutes a day. And if you took someone who's sedentary sitting on the couch last year for 365 days, and then you had a challenge, you call it the 365-day challenge. We should do this. This would be fun. For 10 minutes a day, you got to break a sweat somehow. I don't care how you do it. You can have sex with your wife, your husband. You can go walk up a flight of stairs with groceries for 10 minutes. You can go get on an elliptical. You can go take a spin class. You can go lift some weights, do some body weight. I don't care what it is. Log it for 365 days. Are you going to get in better shape doing that? The answer is yes. I think your mindset's going to go off in a good place. And I think you will suddenly start saying, wow, this is a part of my life.
Now, this may be controversial, but do you think there's certain exercise methods or techniques that are creating problems, like, say, yoga, where maybe people saying, I'm going to yoga 3 times a week, but they're not burning calories, they're not having that intensity, and they consider that exercise when maybe it's just a stretching or relaxation technique. Do you think that's part of some of the problems too? Like,
I think people do a lot of the wrong stuff. I think there's always a way to find a better path.
Okay.
I think there's always a way to find a better path. What do we hear all the time? Oh, I feel tight. I'm going to go do yoga, and they do yoga, and then, some people. Sometimes I hear, well, it's done work wonders for my mobility. I've heard other people like, no, it's not helping.
Yeah.
My knees hurt now. It's just like we start like generalizing everything. It's even with like training. Like, is training good? Like, that's when I always use that example. Well, are restaurants good? Like, is there a good restaurant? There's a bad restaurant. Like, there are running coaches out there that we've seen put stuff up on, and I was like, oh my God, or there's Derek. So, I think it's like anything else.
Okay, well, we'll continue this, but this was good.
Fun. I'm traveling next week. I'm in Park City.
Yeah, well, enjoy yourself there. Yeah, let me know what you see at the airport.
And I will. And listen, we can always do something over the weekend, next weekend. Let me know. I'm free Saturday or Sunday.
Okay.
All right, bro. Thanks, bud.
Take care, man.